Good morning to all of you. My name is Mihir Shah. I am working in Swarnim Startup and Innovation University in School of Business Department as an assistant professor. Today, we are inviting all of you for the session or a Swarnim talk of funding options for startups. Before starting the session, let me give a brief introduction about the university, speaker, and the session. To introduce the Swarnim Startup and Innovation University is India's first university for startups, situated at Gandhinagar. We are working under the global leader and Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi ji, vision and mission of making India, Startup India to build a strong ecosystem for promoting innovation and startups in the country that would encourage sustainable economic growth and create large-scale employment opportunities. Our vision is to become globally competent institution, imparting education based upon the foundation of innovation and entrepreneurship. The university is the first of its kind in India, which is dedicated to promote startups and entrepreneurship. The inspiring environment of the campus, along with Swarnim Incubation Center, which is live 24/7, allows students to explore, validate, launch, be successful in their business ideas. We ranked in top 4 private university of Gujarat and top 50 private university of India under Atal ranking of institution on innovation achievement 2020. Ranking announced by Honorable Vice President of India, Sri M. Venkatet Naidu ji. We awarded as Best University of the Year 2019 for Entrepreneurship Development Education in India at NEEA Conference 2019. We awarded as Best Innovation University at National Startup Summit 2017, Gujarat. Now, some brief introduction about the speaker. For today's session of funding options for startups, we are cordially invited Shri Mahesh Gupta, sir. Welcome you, sir. Mr. Gupta is one of the promotes of GEVPF and founding team member of iCreate with other eminent academicians. Mr. Gupta is participating as a company secretary for approximately 32 years. He has equal interest in social and business organizations. He is mentoring many new projects for technocrats at IIM Ahmedabad, Nirma Labs, EDII, and MICA entrepreneurship programs. Today, as a speaker, he was a chairman of the Ahmedabad chapter of ICSI in 1991 and then regional council member from 1992 to 1994. He was president of Gujarat Investors and Shareholders Association, one of the SEBI Registered Investor Association, and was also invited on the executive committee of Gujarat Chamber of Commerce and Industry. He has been chairing various committees like corporate law, capital market, indirect taxation, etc., of GCCI and other chambers. Then about the session. In these sessions, we are going to discuss on the most necessary requirement of funding in a startup, how much fund is enough to raise at every stage, how to allocate funds for various stages of startups such as prototype development, market launch of product, revenue generation stage, expansion stage, series funding, etc. How to utilize the funds and how not to burn out. So, sir, welcome you again for this session, and now the session is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mihir. I am grateful to Swarnim's Startup and Innovation University for inviting me to deliver a talk on funding of startups today. It's my pleasure to be with you this morning. It's a very important topic because from employment motive, now most of the young generation or Y generation, I would say, is shifting towards own ventures because it has a lot of benefits, as you know very well. You are the king of your own. Rather than looking for the employment you become an employment generator. Maybe very small number, 5, 10, 15, 20, you can generate the employment and give the employment. Secondly, you have the liberty of the life, how to work, and entire reward of your efforts you reap. Otherwise, in employment, your employer is reaping those rewards, what hard work and employees is bringing in. Therefore, there is a lot of trust. Even many of the MBA students, even from the premier institute IIM Ahmedabad, I had come across them, mentoring them. They had opted out of the placement week, placement activity, and preferred to have their own startups. And now, as the Swarnim Startup and Innovation University is there are many such institutions, I would say, which are helping, guiding, mentoring the various young people who are interested to have their own startups. As far as the startups are concerned, before I go for the modes of funding, need for funding, where they are available, you know very well that the Government of India, under the able leadership of Shri Narendra Bhai Modi, has taken a lot of initiatives on the startups. When we started iCreate as one of the international incubation center at Ahmedabad, it was his brainchild. The thinking process started in 2009 and it was culminated in 2011. And now it has become like one of the very well established incubator. Now, lot of such incubation centers have been set up by various management institutes, engineering and technology institutes, even many colleges and universities. Almost every university we have an incubation. For having an incubator, normally the incubation activities are undertaken by a Section 25 company, which is now Section 8. It means no profit, no loss basis. Objective is to promote the science, commerce, charity, religion, or business. That is the objective, and no profit can be taken back, and business is never the motive. Now, from that angle, the Government of India has taken a lot of initiatives. A lot of startup hubs have been established. Secondly, to have the helping hand, or to give the helping hand, Government of India has made almost registration of any new venture, any new entity online. A lot of efforts are being made even for the social enterprises now. Thirdly, in every startup and any innovation, you need patents. So the patent registrations are being made faster. And fourthly, I would say that if a startup does not work, then even under IBC or through insolvency and bankruptcy code, within 90 days, the faster mode of closure, it has been allowed. So if a startup has been made and the entrepreneur wants to take a U-turn, within 90 days, he can approach, and then very fast, his company can be closed, his unit could be closed. So these are some of the simplifications which have been made by the Government of India. As far as the tax benefits are concerned, see, income tax exemptions are given. Most of the startups would fall in MSME category, medium, micro, small and medium enterprises. There is already an act, Micro, Small, Medium and Enterprises Development Act 2006. There is a very important provision. Once you are registered as micro or small unit, and registration is very easy, whether you are in service industry or you are in goods, you can register your unit, your business entity, because it has the investment in fixed plant and machinery, which may be very low initially. Then once you are registered as micro or small unit, then within maximum 45 days, all buyers of your goods and the persons to whom you are availing services have to make payment. Any payment beyond the credit terms or 45 days, whichever is earlier, they have to pay 3 times of the bank rate interest for the delayed period, 18%, which works out to be. Therefore, as far as the MSMED Act is concerned, that has given a great help to the startups, I would say, because most of the startups would fall or would be eligible to register as MSMED, which could be longer also, but it is otherwise available. As far as the MSMED or small startups are concerned, for first 5 years, it could be there. Before I go for the funding, friends, let me also discuss with you that what type of entity you can have for a startup. See, we can divide all type of organizations into 3 various parts. Number 1, I may have a sole proprietary concern, sole owner, sole proprietary concern. You don't have to do anything. If you want to do the business in a different name, you have to register your firm under Shop and Establishment Act with the local authority. You can have different name. This Shop and Establishment Act registration with the municipal corporation and also professional tax registration. These 2 certifications or registrations would enable to open your bank account in the name of the proprietary firm, not in your individual name, because there is a provision. Your business income you cannot collect in your saving bank account. You should have a current account. So either you have to open in your individual name your current account, or if you want to have some firm name which is different than your name as a sole proprietor, you have to have this registration by way of KYC norms, which are now mandated. You know, friends, very well. See, there are advantages of being solo. You are the king of your own. You are the decision maker. Decisions are well directed. And whatever decision you take, that would be in the best interest of your business. There is no conflict. All these benefits are there of sole proprietor, but the growth is restricted because you have your own limitation. Limitation due to some of the scarce resources of the management, what we call the time resources, or you can say the money resources or expertise resources. These are the limitations by which you need help of someone. But still, in a sole proprietary concern, because the liability is unlimited of the sole proprietor, because business is always having a cycle of ups and downs. Sometime maybe due to internal factors, sometime maybe to the extraneous factors. The product what you launched, what you introduced, maybe out of fashion, out of obsolescence has taken place. In that case, you are out from the market. There may be the losses. So whatever wealth you have accumulated so far from during your lifetime may be wiped off in a sole proprietary concern, because you are personally liable to pay to all the creditors and the lenders and the suppliers of your business, of which you are sole proprietor. Therefore, every businessman would like to have an entity where your business and yourself are 2 different entities. Therefore, we say the limited liability concepts, friends, where you can have OPC, 1-person company. Concept of OPC was introduced in India by having a provision under Companies Act 2013, effective from 1st April 2014. So it's almost 7 years old concept, I would say, in India, where I can have 100% equity with me. And then I run my business and liability is limited. A lot of relaxations have also been given. So you can convert. If your turnover goes up, you may convert your OPC, 1-person company, into a private limited company. That's one. Secondly, friends, as far as the startups are concerned, government schemes are there. Now, under the government schemes, it says your startup entity should be registered either as an LLP or as a private limited company. Then only you are eligible for the benefits of the government schemes. So you should have an LLP or you should have a private limited company. LLP and private limited company, friends, as far as the sole proprietor concern is, let us also see, always keep in mind in the business, money saved is money earned. There is one matter what I have to deliberate upon, one issue, that how not to burn out. Simple answer is you have to increase your profits. for increasing the profits in the business, you have only two things, friends. Number one, either increase the revenue or reduce the expenses. And if you could do both, I increase my revenue and curtail my very miser in expenses, why I should lavishly spend the money which is not needed, then you are a very successful businessman. So I will not burn out easily. Secondly, second fundamental I would like to share with you, beginning has always to be humble. Therefore, don't go for big show off from the beginning. Even to the established entrepreneurs or industrialists, when they are entering into the collaborations with the foreign parties, foreign companies, I suggest that have the capital of the company very minimum, because you never know whether this marriage would be successful or there may be a divorce in near future. If it is successful, very good. But if there is a divorce, there is a separation between the two partners, then whatever money you had invested would be very difficult to close that entity. And not only close that entity, but also to take back the money what has been invested from share capital, unless you go for the long run process in which the foreign collaborator may not be interested into. So beginning has to be humble. You may have an entity like a partnership, normal partnership, which may not be eligible for startup benefits under the scheme. Sole proprietor is also not eligible. It has to be LLP. And there are the provisions by which a normal partnership I can convert into LLP. Even a company I can convert into LLP, or an LLP could also be converted into a company, and normal partnership could also be converted into a company. There are provisions by which I could convert at a later stage. So I may have an organization, I may have an entity which is lean in nature, having very little expenses. Government of India has made, as far as the incorporations are concerned, registrations are concerned, very simple. LLP registration is purely online. The concept of LLP in India was introduced on 1st April 2008. Initially, there were no takers. Myself with the government officers have addressed a lot of seminars to propagate the new concept of LLP in various institutes, professional bodies, Chamber of Commerce. We had gone and addressed the seminars, addressed the workshops to the people that why this new form should not be adopted to. See, the unlimited liability limitation or demerit is addressed in LLP. As far as the taxation is concerned, the taxation of normal partnership LLP is same. LLP for the purpose of taxation is considered as a partnership. Rate of tax is 30%, marginal tax. There are surcharges if your net profit is beyond certain limits. That is an additional, but 30% plus 4%, you have the cess. So LLP and partnership, it is the same taxation. As far as the normal sole proprietary concern is there. See, company is a separate legal entity. On company, you have to pay the taxes as per the marginal rate of tax, which is applicable to the company. But as far as the sole proprietary concern is, sole proprietary entity is concerned, I have to pay tax like an individual. And you know that every individual in India, if he's not a senior citizen or very senior citizen, then up to 2.5 lakhs, no tax. Annual income. 2.5 lakhs to 5 lakhs of slab of income, you have to pay 5%. 5 lakhs to 10 lakhs, you have to pay 20%. And above 20 lakhs, you have to pay 30%. Highest tax rate is 30%. You save on one individual in your family 1,87,500 generally out of one assessment. That is the reason why every family member of a businessman's family, whether they are ladies in the family or the persons or the kids who have grown up and are 18 years and above, they are shown as the business person. Income is created in their names as a sole proprietor or in partnerships, and you can save 1,87,500 per SSE. Even in an HUF, Hindu undivided family, you can save 1,87,500 provided you are earning in HUF income more than 10 lakhs rupees. So that is the saving. Because on 10 lakh rupee, I have to pay 3 lakhs rupees being 30%. But if it is a separate entity, I have to pay 1,12,500. So net saving per SSE. That is the reason why every business family would look for more SSEs within the family. Some of the businesses in the family are being run in the name of ladies. They are the proprietors, they are the partners, but they may not be engaged. They may hire the people. It is not there that in business, I have to carry on the business myself. I may not do the business, but my people are doing. I pay them the salary. It is my decision. I take the responsibility. So therefore, for having the better funding, see, generate first thing, let us come to the basic principle, what most of you know very well, that increase the revenue. Now again, the increase has in the revenue may be two ways. Either I sell more quantity of goods or render more services. Quantity wise, you increase it. Then your production has to increase, your capacity has to increase. Secondly, you increase the rate. Quantity remaining same, but suppose I increase by 10% the selling price. My services which I was charging 1 lakh rupee, now I start charging 1,25,000. So with the same service, with the same time, my revenue is increased. That's one way to make profits. Secondly, I reduce expenses. If I can do with the staff of 10 people, why I should have 15? So I have to find out. I can take more work from them. And nowadays, work from home, that is a concept which will save lot of enterprises, lot of things. Work from home means you are concerned with the output. They are not occupying your office. Even a table and a chair or a cabin to someone has its own cost because you are hiring the premises or owning the premises. You have to not only the direct salary, which you are otherwise also to pay when you are having the work from home, but the space, electricity, telephone, tea, coffees, leaves, all these things, bonus, everything would be applicable to you. So it has its own cost. That's the reason why after this lockdown or after this pandemic, many of the IT companies have preferred that 20 to 25% of their employees would now permanently work from home. It's a different issue whether it is good for the employee or not. I'll say it is good for the employer, not for the employee. Because if you do not move out, the health issues may come up. Health, not only physical, but the mental health would be very bad because you don't have an exposure and meeting with the people where your mind is recharged. But you can't help it. But what I'm saying, reduction in costs. So reduction cost is very important. Third, through legitimate means, you save taxes by tax planning. If the schemes are there in my business, I should certainly resort to those schemes. Earlier, there had been a lot of subsidies, price support subsidy, backward area benefit subsidies. Why? The industries have decided to set up. Pharma company, for example, the pharma companies have decided to have their plants in 3 hilly states. I would say Jammu, Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, and Uttarakhand. Why? Because those states are barren lands. They have hardship of life. There is no employment generation. So the state governments decide to give the benefits to the industries if they are set up. And under Constitution of India, as a businessman, I can work from anywhere. See, I can travel throughout the territories of India. I can settle anywhere in India, and I can do business anywhere in India except during the pandemic days where the Disaster Management Act or Pandemic Act is applicable. Those are restrictions. Otherwise, it might happen that in some of the states you are not eligible, special states, I would say, to buy out lands. You have to take on lease. You have to take on rent. But you can do business. There is no restriction. There is no legal ban. So you have to decide where the benefits are there, but always as a business decision, cost benefit analysis we should see. Cost in the sense I'll face hardship. I'm going away from the availability of raw material, skilled worker, so it has its own cost. Then I have to transport my goods again from the manufacturing place or manufacturing plant to my market. So it has its own transportation or logistic cost. But whatever benefits I am getting, whether those benefits overweigh this additional cost. If you think yes, you take a call. You will save money. You will earn more. So in business, friends, that is very important to take a call. Therefore, very simple, fundamental, as far as the funding before we go in micro detailing, that try to save the money, but through legitimate means. I don't say the tax evasion is a way of making money. You collect GST and don't pay. Your business would be ruined, not today then tomorrow. And your cost, what you had not paid from your saving would be much, much higher. So that is the second aspect, what I say, that be miser, especially when you are a startup. In a startup, see, what are the sources of funding what you have? I start a registration of a company. And as far as the government of India is concerned, I tell you, if I register even a private limited company, I don't have to pay any registration fee up to 15 lakhs of authorized share capital. Only I have to pay stamp duty. And in Gujarat, stamp duty is 0.5% of the authorized capital. That I have to pay. So on 15 lakhs or 10 lakh, on 10 lakh, I have to pay 5,000 stamp duty. That's all. But around 5% of the fee which I used to pay has been waived by the government of India. But only thing, it is a help. Help in the sense that once I grow and increase my authorized capital beyond 15 lakhs, maybe after 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years, then suppose I make my capital 20 lakhs. Today I have got 15 lakhs, no fees I have to pay for registration of a company. Now I increase to 20 lakhs after 2 years, then I have to pay on entire 20 lakhs. It means it is deferment. Not if I am looking or I am only a very small, then I don't have to pay. But in business, you cannot keep your growth checked and controlled just to save few bucks. It's like this. Suppose there are certain labor laws which are applicable when you are having less than 10 workmen or less than 20 workmen. It never means that because I should not be falling within the purview of the PF, superannuation, gratuity, Factories Act, therefore I should always have up to 9 employees. Then obviously my growth is not there. Therefore you have to be that in that system. You say that I'll not be part of the GST, then my turnover is less than 20 lakhs or 40 lakhs, then I'll not never, so I should not increase. I don't want to pay taxes. Therefore, friends, you decide not to earn profit. That is not the way. In India, still the tax rates are very moderate. We have to pay maximum 30%. And I was talking to you as far as the taxation is concerned. On the company's tax rates have been reduced very, very motivationally, I would say. Normal tax rate on the companies is 30% plus surcharge plus cess. Now, if your turnover is more than 400 crore, then you have to pay 30%. So large size companies have to pay 30% outright. But if your turnover is up to 400 crore, you have to pay 25%. Thirdly, if your company has been established after 1st October 2019, your company, a private limited company or a public company, has been established after 1st October 2019 for manufacturing items, not trading, not servicing, but in manufacturing of certain items, then friends, the tax rate is 15%, and by making it gross, it comes to around 17%, which is the least rate, I would say, not for an individual even. Now, what the government wants, you have your startup as a company, turnover. So there is one requirement that as far as the 15% tax rate, which works out to be 17.5% with grossing it up. At that time, what you should do, you should not have the unit set up by split of the things or by transferring the assets from your old unit to new unit. That is not allowed. So you have to set up afresh a new unit. So the tax rate of 17% is very, very minimal, I would say. But one doesn't know because there is no provision that this tax holiday or tax benefit is for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. Nothing is mentioned in the law. Maybe after 5 years, it may be done away with. So one doesn't know, but still it is there. And as a businessman, you have to take the best advantage of the tax laws. That is also very important because you save money. I share, friends, here with you the, see, we used to have the system of the multiplexes. Earlier, we have the single screen theaters. One theater, single screen. And we had to pay whatever the tickets we have to buy to watch a movie, 50% of the ticket, what we pay to the theater owner, 50% amount was going to the state government by way of entertainment tax. In 2005, there was promotion of the entertainment zone. Therefore, on multiplexes, there was no entertainment tax. Therefore, all single screen theaters have been converted into multiplexes. In one mall, there were 5 theaters, 6 theaters. Not of every theater within a particular mall with 500 sitting capacity, maybe 50, 80, 100, small. But what happens? Of your revenue, 50% of your revenue, which used to go to the government by way of entertainment tax, it was exempted for 10 years. So 10 years to give push to this industry. Most of the single theater screens have been converted into multiplexes. That was the time, 2005 to 2015. And now, you know, in even Ahmedabad, Fun Republic has been demolished because that scheme is gone. That scheme is no more available. That is the reason why now you have to pay taxes, entertainment tax. So a businessman, what I want to say, where I want dragging to you, that as a business person, as an entrepreneur, as a startup, you should always look at where the benefits are there, where tax benefits are available. Legitimately, we should avail them. Because ultimately, if I pay less taxes, I'm end up with the more revenue available with me. So you can have a partnership firm, you can have an LLP, you can have a private limited company, friends. You can also have a private limited company for a startup, as I discussed. For registering in the government scheme of a startup, you should have LLP or company. Sole proprietary concern or OPC is not allowed. Secondly, here again, there could be a good debate because we come across in the incubation. See, there are a lot of funding agencies which do funding to the LLPs. Now, what are those funding agencies? See, you may be incubated. There may be angel investor. There may be venture funds. Now, all these people are very, very optimistic about your growth. How the growth is, see, they understand your plan. They have a discussion with the promoters. They see this product is good, the services are good, which have the good promise, and it will appreciate in future. Then obviously they invest right now. And the appreciation would be reaped only when it is in the form of shares. Therefore, in LLP again, I'll not advise that you should go for LLP as a startup. Initially, it's okay, but as soon as your feet are established, you should convert your LLP into a private limited company, or you can start with a private limited company. Why? If somebody want to invest funds into my organization, my entity, he has to become a partner in LLP. Every LLP needs minimum 2 partners and minimum 2 designated partners. If I got only 2, both have to be designated partner. It means active partners who are taking responsibility to manage the affairs of the firm. And any non-compliance would lead the punishment to those 2 people. So minimum 2 have to be designated partner, what we call DP. They should also have it in number. Now, here the question is, an investor, what is an investment? Suppose I say I invest in land. I buy a house, I buy an office. Can I say that I had invested in land? Answer is no. Investment where you park your surplus funds with the objective to reap benefits by taking an exit. I invest land. I don't need land to be utilized as a fixed assets for my plant, for my unit. I want to have an office. And if I buy an office, it is not investment. It is acquisition of fixed assets. I say it is an investment when I say when price appreciates. I buy an office in 50 lakhs, sell in 70 lakhs, out. I buy certain shares of 10 lakhs rupees, sell in 12 lakhs, out. I buy a piece of land and sell it. I buy gold and sell it. I buy commodities and sell it. It means you flirt, you don't marry. You don't marry. That is called investment. So investment is always for taking an exit. Now there could be a strategic partner, that's one issue, who may bring the funds to you. There may be not only a strategic partner, but maybe you can say an investor. An investor is never interested to take part in your business. What? He will give you the funds because he's having surplus funds. He's looking for good returns. Therefore, he expects returns. Returns may be through appreciation, maybe through the dividend, maybe through the IRR, what he gets it, maybe through personal arrangements or otherwise, he will invest the funds in your project, in your startup. And secondly, as soon as you progress in your business, valuation will keep on hiring. You are a startup. I have got full faith in your product or your services, your platform, your capabilities, your vision. Today, because you are in need of funds, ho sakta hai ki you can give me the money or you can issue me some shares at a very, very less premium. 10 rupee share, 20 rupee, you would be happy to give it to me. But after 6 months, when you had climbed certain steps, you say, no, now 50 rupee. So the original investor may take an exit at 50 rupee because he has invested at 20 rupee. After 1 year, it may be 80 rupee also. After 2 years, it may be 100 rupee also. One doesn't know. Therefore, the person or an investor who is taking a risk may go out as soon as he gets money. So we have to find out such people who are ready to. So friends, in LLP, it is not feasible. Therefore, I was suggesting for having a startup once you are established. I will not say to all my students in all entrepreneurship courses, friends, I always suggest go with a lean organization. You have a normal partnership. A normal partnership work for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, then convert it into a company. So within next 3, 4, 5 months, you will come to know whether this product or this project is going to be successful or not. Therefore, see, any or an entity which is easy to establish, easy to form, is also easy to close. Where it is off with limited liability. Limited liability is very difficult to close. Unlimited liability you may close. Sole proprietary I can close on any day I want because I am personally liable. Post my closure of the unit, no issue. I have a partnership. With Meerbai, suppose I enter into a partnership business. We may start. Orally also we may have a partnership deed. After 1 month we want to close, we may close it. Share the profits. And still if there is any creditor to whom we couldn't pay, he may recover personally from the wealth which is with Meerbai or with me, any one of them. So my creditors are safe, my lenders are safe, my suppliers are safe. But if it is a private limited company, whatever capital I do invest, my loss is only to the extent of that capital invested in the shares. LLP, you can't give the shares, so there is no, like you can say, investment pattern is not fully justified. Now, friends, there are a lot of funding, what I discussed with you. Let us discuss one by one. See, as far as the funding or the financial management is concerned, there are 2 ways. Either you take a debt or go for capital. Now, as far as the capital is concerned, capital in proprietary concern, you may bring your own capital. Partnership, partners may bring capital, but in partnership also the money which is brought it into the business. There is always three segments I bifurcate in the partnership deeds. Number one, fixed capital. Because you have to pay the stamp duty on the partnership deed or partnership agreement dependent upon the collective investments made by all partners. Suppose I bring 10 lakh, Mr. Chauhan brings 10 lakh, Mr. Amir brings another 10 lakh, so 30 lakh. So we have to pay on 30. This is fixed capital. I may another clause that whenever more funds are needed, the loan can be given by any of the partner on which I'll pay 6%, 7% interest. And I may have a current account also as a partner on which neither it is a fixed capital. So you can have the fixed capital, or current account plus the loans. Three way you can take from a partner, no issue. Now in a sole proprietary or partnership concern, when I take a loan, a question might arise. Suppose I am running a business as a sole proprietor. Can I take loan for my business from my friends? I am having an n number of friends. I've got 60 students in the class who are my friends, or who are your, like you will say, your colleagues or your friends in the classroom. And everybody, you say if everybody gives me you 10,000 rupees and 60 people if they give, it would be 6 lakh of rupees. Your purpose is also can in a sole proprietary concern and business entity take loan from 60 people, 100 people, 200 people? Answer is no. Reserve Bank of India, which is regulator of the money market, there is a provision in sole proprietor, you can't take loan from more than 25 people. So there could be only maximum 25 lenders to me when I am doing business in a sole proprietary concern. In partnership, it says, see, in partnership, you can have maximum 250 people or borrowings. In partnership, I may have maximum 20 partners. So 20 partners, it says, see, 25, as I discussed in sole proprietor, 25 lenders. So if I have got 20 partners, it could be 500 lenders. So it says 25 lenders per partner subject to maximum of 250. That is another restriction on borrowings. See, RBI Act does not, RBI regulations do not prohibit the amount. Amount may be N, but you should not go to the N number of people and borrow money. It is not crowdfunding, which is allowed to. So friends, that is the third thing. Second thing, what we should keep in mind, that the business, what we are doing, you can borrow the money from the people. You can borrow the money from the people, and that money should come only from limited people. In sole proprietary, maximum 25 people who are known to you. In partnership, 25 people per partner subject to maximum 250 people. If you are having more than 10 partners, that's second. So that is as far as the borrowing is concerned. Can I borrow money in LLP? The answer is yes. In LLP also you can borrow money. There is no restriction. Can you take money in LLP from any person? Answer is yes. But always keep in mind that a reasonable rate of interest is offered. Otherwise, there would be income tax issues. Suppose I am your friend and to your startup, I give you 10 lakhs of rupees, just a help. And you are a new startup, you don't have anything, no return. So I know that you will not be in a position to pay interest to me. Then can I give you interest free? Okay, I can give you interest free. It's my money. It's a contract between the two parties, lender and the borrower. I am the lender. I say I will not charge interest. You are taking because there is no restriction on borrowing. So we may take it, but our understanding how it would be deemed and considered by the income tax authorities. Income tax authorities would view that why somebody should lend the money where you could have earned interest by lending or placing fixed deposit or investing somewhere else. Therefore, it might happen, a presumption in the mind of the income tax authorities, that you as a startup might have given the interest in cash to me. So they will consider interest income as a deemed income and will assess accordingly. And will ask that from where did you bring cash? So there could be ED issues. Therefore, every financial dealing should have some interest component which is reasonable as per the market rate to avoid income tax issues in future. Thirdly, as far as the private companies are concerned, friends, the third type of entity is what we have, the private limited companies, how we can have the funding. In private limited companies, see, you can take loan, borrowing is very tough in private limited companies. And when I'm suggesting that for private companies, you should have the private companies as the mode or the type of entity for a startup, a question would arise that from where I can take money. See, they under section 73 or borrowing has to be exempted deposits. So in a private limited company, I can take loan from a bank, from institutions, I can have the grants, I can have from the central government, state government, I can bring foreign funds because foreign funds are subject to FEMA regulations. So you are complying with another law, company law does not restrict. You can have the share application money, but share application money has to be kept in a separate bank account and within 60 days you have to allot the shares. You can have ICD, a company borrowing from another company, that is allowed. But see, there are more stringent regulations on the lending company. Suppose I borrow money in my private limited company from your company, then if it is a related company, you have to do a separate procedure as a lender, not as a borrower. Borrower is allowed. Borrowing is allowed by the borrower company, but lender company or lending company had to, if it is a related party, you have to comply with section 185. Secondly, under 186, you have to pass a board resolution with the consent of all directors. You have also to charge interest. So a lot of restrictions on giving the funds outside to somebody else. Can I borrow money in my private limited company from LLP? Answer is no. Can I take from partnership? Answer is no. Can I take from HUF? Answer is no. So in private limited companies, either have the bank borrowings, issue the debentures. Debentures could again be CCD, compulsorily convertible debentures, or secure debentures where the debentures are given a security or security is given on the assets of the company and the market value of security is higher than the debenture amount, then it could be. So debentures you can just rule out in case of the startups. Now, friends, not only this, you can, other than ICD, you can take loan from a director, but out of their own funds. In private company, you can take loan from directors' relatives also, again out of their own funds, for which you have to take a declaration for. Now, in case of directors' relatives, who are the relatives under the Companies Act? They have defined the relatives are a member of HUF and spouse. For husband, wife, suppose husband is a director in a private limited company, wife can give loan from her own savings, own balances, not out of the borrowed funds. Secondly, it says the father, mother, brother, sister, son, son's wife, daughter and daughter's husband, spouse and HUF member. But HUF per se is not allowed because it becomes a separate entity. I can't take money from a trust also. My personal trust, individual trust, private trust, I can't take money in. Lot of things are there, like lot of restrictions on the private companies' borrowings. So you have to see. So Companies Act as soon as comes in, Companies Act law provision, Companies Act provisions will come in. So private company has lot of restrictions on the borrowing. This borrowing should not fall within the definition of a deposit under section 73. It should be in the definition of exempted borrowing. That means bank borrowing, institutional borrowings, government borrowings, foreign borrowings, ICD, intercorporate loans, loan from director, private company, then loan from director's relatives, share application money. This money you can keep it, but you can't utilize. And sometimes, suppose you take a loan as a startup, and then you have to bring the capital, matching capital. We know in financial management, there is a debt equity ratio is to 2:1. If my capital is 50 lakhs of rupees, I can borrow up to 1 crore. But I want to borrow 1 crore with 20 lakhs of capital. So I have to bring another 30 lakhs of capital to match it in the debt equity ratio 2:1. Now here what happens, the bank will put a condition, either bring 30 lakhs of rupees, then only will allow the 1 crore of borrowing being, otherwise your debt equity ratio is 1:5, 5:1 rather than 2:1. So I'll say I'll bring quasi equity. Why you should par? So while sanctioning a loan, bank may put a condition in the sanction letter that you will bring another 30 lakhs of capital by way of unsecured loan by the promoters, which will be non-interest bearing, number one. Promoters can bring in, number two. Thirdly, till the loan is outstanding of the particular lender, you will not repay this amount. It means interest-free loan like equity. So we call it quasi-equity. Now, if I have to bring from the promoters that much amount in the capital because it is one of the terms and conditions of my bank sanction, then it is allowed to be taken and accepted by a bank or by the private limited company. So these are, friends, some of the borrowings. Debentures, obviously, you can issue, but nowadays, issuance of debentures, lot of procedures under Section 71 has to be done. Now, let's go for the equity. Let's go for the equity. Capital first. See, as far as the issuance of the capital is concerned or raising the funds by a startup is concerned, from where I bring money. Now, let's go one by one. In sole proprietary concern, I discussed I have to bring my own capital and then I can borrow the funds on loan basis or borrowing basis from maximum 25 people. Partnership firm, all partners may bring capital. I discussed earlier. They may have the current account and give the current account without touching, without impacting or affecting your fixed capital. Thirdly, they may give a loan also as per the partnership deed clauses and charge interest if there is a provision to. Can a partnership borrow from outside? Obviously, always you have an option to go for loan from banks, lending institutions. Normally, the borrowing is concerned, borrowing may be on two bases. Number one, you have the funding for purchase of fixed assets. Suppose you want to buy a machine, you want to buy a laptop, you want to buy computers, you want to buy office building, you want to have the factory building. That is called term loan. Term loan you have to pay after few years moratorium. 1 year moratorium is given, it means no repayment would start for 1 year after the loan is disbursed. So you will take a loan, establish, settle your feet, and after 1 year, EMIs would start, quarterly payments or half yearly payments or monthly payments, what is agreed upon. So that is the repayment of the loan, which is very important, friends, because you should be in a position to service your debt. Now, in business, initial years are very tough. Any business, any startup, you don't have the returns because normally we call 1,000-day theory. 3 years it will take to earn a profit. I tell you very frankly, the government is giving 5 years tax benefits on a startup. See, 5 years you don't have to pay the tax. But my question is whether for the first 5 years I'll make the taxable profit. They may not be the taxable profit. So basically, I may not avail those benefits. So that thing sometimes does not work well. And you may not avail those benefits. So you can bring the capital. Secondly, as far as the funding is concerned, in partnership, you can borrow money, we were discussing. LLP, again, I discussed, you can borrow money, there is no restriction. So from borrowing point of view, LLP is the best entity today where it is least regulated. Least regulated. Companies are highly regulated by the legal provisions under Section 73A. For the lender, they are Section 185, 186, and for the borrowing, it is Section 73, which is important. Now, as I discussed, in initial years, you don't earn profit. You borrow money, then you have to pay interest. If you don't earn and you have to pay interest, it will further impact your profitability statement because my losses are increased. And if my losses are increased, it will have impact on my again borrowing capacity because the bankers or my lenders would be disturbed that this company is not making a profit, how the repayment would be made. So in the initial stages of a startup, you are looking where people have faith in you, people have faith in your projections, people have faith in your projects, and they take a bet on you. It means equity participation. So equity participation becomes the best. And that equity participation, friends, becomes in what way? See, I tell you, when I am a startup, equity could be participated if you are with an incubator you are a project which has been selected by an incubator. There, as I was discussing, a lot of incubators have been established as Section 8 companies, because you don't get grant from the government unless, as an incubator, unless you are registered with DSC, Department of Science and Technology, and you are registered under Section 8 compulsorily. Therefore, you get a grant, you help the startups. And under the scheme also, you know very well that you need DIPP approval, you need a recommendation letter from an incubator, you should have an innovative scheme, you should not have been more than 5 years of existence and turnover does not exceed 25 crores and your unit is not made up out of the split of existing unit. Then you are eligible for the government schemes. So friends, normally the incubator will bet on you, not only give you the soft funding at a very subsidized rate of interest. But what happens as an incubator, what problems we face, which I have to change a lot of seed agreements with many of the incubators in n number of incubators. Can I give interest-free loan as an incubator to the incubating startup? Answer is no, because Section 186 is not exempted there. Therefore, I have to charge interest at least 6% per annum. What is the rate? What is the yield in the market? I have to charge. I can't give free of interest or without interest. That's one. Can I take equity? Generally, every incubator will take up to 10% equity in the beginning of the project when you are being incubated as a startup. I tell you, in IIT Gandhinagar, we have the two incubating companies. One is IIT Research Park, another is the IIEC. IIM Ahmedabad is again having two Section 8 companies. One is again CIIE Initiative, Center of Innovation, Incubation and Entrepreneurship Initiative, Section 8 company. Another is IDEA, that's on telecom policy. So there are two Section 8 companies in IIM campus also. Now friends, here the question is very simple question which I am raising to you, that up to 10% equity, an incubator may insist upon to take maybe 4%, 5%, 6%, depending on the different incubators at the initial stage. Suppose you start a company with 1 lakh of capital, they may take up to 10,000 rupees shares by paying you 10,000 rupees. It means then they will give you the funds also. They will have the support, soft loans also for your stay during the incubation period, your expenses, your start, like I'll say, your all infrastructure. So one way for funding a startup, join an incubator where you get equity. You have to give some equity, but equity contribution is very less. See, the entire purpose is making an incubator self-sustainable by taking exit from the equity what they had invested. In our incubator, our 10,000 rupee investment, we took exit at 4 crore rupees after 3 years of investment, because the foreign funds have taken over those shares and 4 crore rupees. Now that fund 4 crore rupees, which my incubator or incubating company has garnered, now that would be very helpful to help another so many startups. I had become self-sustainable. It might happen when I talk about the success. See, 10% success rate in the incubation stage or sphere is very good. My 90% project may fail, but 10% are successful. As far as the incubator is concerned, he is successful, I would say. So that is one way, is go to the incubator. He will ask for some equity. He may give you the funding at a very lower rate of interest with the depending on the success, even up to the stages. See, suppose you are on the innovation side, you are having some inventions, you have some research, they will help you to have the mentoring. Through mentoring, your patent could be provisionally registered. It could be final specifications, it could be registered, because they have that bandwidth by which they would help you. So that is one part. Secondly, there are venture funds. Venture funds are large funds. So you're as a startup, you can, GVFL, for example, GVFL Limited is a venture fund established by various financial institutions. Likewise, many venture funds which are registered with SEBI. Now they call AIF, Alternate Investment Funds. So you can approach them. There are project specific funds. Suppose it is infrastructure fund, it is IT fund, it is the green energy fund. So if those funds are there with the particular venture capitalist, they will take some equity and give you a loan also. So that is another thing. Thirdly, crowdfunding is one other source in crowdfunding, which is not very popular in India, but in Western countries, crowdfunding, people may invest funds in your organization. But as I discussed, in a formal organization like private companies and LLPs, unless I issue the shares, for which still we are not mentally prepared for the crowdfunding. There may be the lending institutions. There may be the angel investors. Angel investors are individual, high net worth individuals who have huge funds. They want to invest their funds, and they want to invest their funds in the good, promising projects. Many times I find the people who are foreign nationals, if I reject a project, they take it up because they are taking more risk than me as an incubator. They are taking more risk than me because they have their own version. I have got the system. So personally, they may take. So high net worth individuals as an angel investors, there are a lot of people. There is community of angel investors where a startup could go, provided your project report is good. It has the promise. It has something new. If you say कि मुझे भजिया की दुकान खोलनी है, then obviously somebody may not fund it. Nobody will come forward. So simple entrepreneurship. I will not say it is a startup. Do something novel. Look at the market. What is the potential? What is the life of this product? It should not be fast obsolete product that it may go out from the market due to technology obsolescence. In business, this might also happen, but it should look, then only the people will come. So there could be angel investors, there may be venture funds. Now there may be, as I discussed, the incubators who are going to help you. Then obviously there are banks and institutions who can buy equity also. See, LIC. I know LIC, we know that as a student, we understand that LIC is just for taking life insurances. That's not so. What the LIC does of the premium, what it collects, it has to invest. Then only it would appreciate. So LIC is giving loans. UTI was giving loans, which is now bifurcated. So UTI is giving loan, LIC is giving loan, and also they are investing into the equity of lot many companies in big amounts, big chunks. So, but these are all big institutions which will come at a later stage, not in the startup stage, unless your product has or project has been very, very promising. You know, Zomato's IPO. Now see, the whole system is changing. Nowadays, Oyo Rooms does not have any hotels. Service industry, basically these are all platforms. So you have to have the funding at the various stages. That various stages would be how much you had progressed. Initially, you may go to angel investor, always give an exit, never make a personal promise to someone. Personal promise in the sense, see, can I buy back the shares? I invest, you want some IRR, internal rate of return, you say I should get 18% return you should get on your investment, then only you will buy out the equity. There is an agreement. Now from where I'll give, so there should be an exit. So 4 or 5 years down the line of your startup, you plan an IPO. List your shares. So the all original investors, whether they are angel investors or incubators or private equity players or private equity funders, they will take an exit and you don't have any personal obligation to buy out their shareholding at certain valuations after some time. But friends, I understand many of the times by looking at this or 3 to 4 decades of my experience in the industry, many promoters I have seen are very smart. They will show losses for first 5 years. And the people who had invested funds in their entity in the initial stage on a very good promising note, they get suffocated that this company is going to, or this startup is not going to do good. It is a running case. It is a loss-making case. Then they sell their shares to the promoters at throwaway prices. I'll never advise because in 5 years you may be ruined also. Therefore, always look, and they take exit. Promoters buy out at a cheaper valuations, lower valuations. And once the entire shareholding comes back to the promoter, then they start showing profits. That's what they do in real life. So the funding may be through equity. Banks may be there, institutions may be there. There may be private placement you can do of the equity to the select investor groups. Now again, you can buy equity, or there may be the preference shares. Nowadays, the taxation benefits is gone, because till last year, dividend received was totally exempt. Therefore, an investor was looking for dividend, company had to pay dividend distribution tax. That's all. And whenever the dividend is distributed to the shareholders, it was tax-free. Now from this year, 1st April 2021, now the provision is you have to pay tax, 2020 rather. Now you have to pay tax on the dividend income also, income from other sources. Therefore, it is taxable in your end, whatever dividend you get it. Though up to 5,000 rupee from a company, no TDS is there. Now, as far as the funds utilization is concerned, the whatever funds you get it, always try to repay the debt first, so that your interest burden is reduced. Because if my interest burden is reduced, my profit is increased or losses are reduced. My earning per share is increased. If my earning per share is increased with the reduced losses or reduced burden of the interest, then obviously my valuation of the company goes up. Issue valuation goes up, so I can have the higher valuation. But if I'm earning at a rate which is higher than my returns, suppose I am earning at a rate of 10% and I'm borrowing at 6%, then there is no harm. So my earning rate should be higher than my cost of capital. Then borrowing is better than what we call leveraging of financing. So the leveraging of financing in the system should be done only when you are earning. But for friends, for that purpose, there are a lot of, I'll say, hybrid instruments. See, two things are coming out from this discussion very clearly. Number one, an investor would not like to invest in equity in the initial stages unless there is a good potential, because he does not get returns. He would like to give on interest initially, but the payment of the interest is a burden on the borrower. Therefore, what happens? We talk about convertible debentures. In the convertible debentures, because if it is CCD, compulsorily convertible debentures, that is allowed under Companies Act to be borrowed, to be issued by a company. So what happens? It remains as a debenture, for example, for 18 months or 2 years. Afterwards, it is converted into equity at a valuation after 2 years date. So my investor will get interest for 2 years, then equity. So investor is also happy that he is not losing returns for first 2 years when the company is not earning. So I have to make, as an issuer, as a startup, I have to have some hybrid security which attracts the investor so that he is in a position to give me the funds. Therefore, there is a concept, convertible preference shares, convertible debentures. There may be convertible notes. For a startup, especially the Government of India, Ministry of Corporate Affairs has amended Section 73 rules, which says you can issue up to 25 lakhs of, more than 25 lakhs of rupees, convertible income notes. It means I give an income note like a debt, which would be converted into equity at a later stage. That has also been allowed for the starts of fiscal year, where under Section 73, they had also defined what the startup is. So eligibility criteria had been. So friends, these are some of the issues where, see, as a lean organization, you have to have the policy by which make efforts to increase your revenue, reduce the expenses, don't burn out your capital. To attract funds, you have to see the point of view of the investor. He may not get returns by way of dividend in the initial stages. Therefore, what you can do, you can have the convertible notes, convertible debentures, or convertible preference shares. If somebody is really interested, not in a long-term investor, then you can have the convertible preference shares also to him, or the redeemable preference shares could be issued by your company, private limited company. Various sources are there, government grants, as I discussed. You can have the incubator, you have the angel investor, you have the venture funds, you have the banks, you have the institutions by way of equity or term loan. This way, a lot of things, friends, is possible. But never borrow more than the money you need. Borrow, you may have a sanction letter, but borrow only when you really need it. Because sometimes excess money also kills you. If I have got flush of funds with me, which I don't need, then obviously I would do the wasteful expenditure, unnecessary expenditure, which would have a lot of pressure on my profitability into the business. Therefore, try to minimize the expenses. That is my first fundamental, but never allow your growth to be controlled or checked. If the need is there, spend the money that is needed, even by borrowing. But borrowing has to be seen whether I would be in a position to service this debt short term or long term. If I cannot see, my project is a long gestation period, I may ask my lender to give me the funds with having the 2 years moratorium. It means repayment would start after 2 years of the disbursement. So 2 years you don't have a burden, and within 2 years you may start earning, making profits. So friends, I think I'm exceeding the time. So I thank once again the organizers of this program and the Swarnim Startup and Innovation University for giving me this opportunity to share my views on the startup funding. Thank you. Mir bhai, back to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. And thank you for sharing your knowledge regarding fund and their opportunities and how to raising the funds, how to utilize and allocate the funds. So very good opportunity for the audience to know about the funding and everything and how they can use your knowledge into their startups and business. So thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Yashwendra, sir.
Thank you. It was my pleasure to have a talk and have an. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.